Hi, my name is Elizabeth Tooten, and this is a presentation of my final thesis for LED699. This is a topic that was chosen very deliberately and carefully based on personal experiences near and dear to my heart, so I hope that going through some of this will also be something that you can connect with as we talk about it and maybe inform some of your experiences to come if you're like me and have ever experienced just a moment of disconnect in your work with the people that you're working with, in your mission, in your values, and all that you strive to achieve, but just find yourself not achieving that success and achieving conflict instead. So this is something that inspired me to take a little bit of a deeper look, particularly within Christian and faith-based organizations that proclaim a common faith, a common denominator, a foundation in scripture and truth, but yet just can't seem to get on the same page. So a brief overview of my final thesis would reveal to you something that would seem very obvious based on current culture, society. May was just, I believe, Mental Health Month, and we saw a lot on the news, in the media, bringing awareness, heightened awareness to the presence of mental illness in society and our families and our work. Resources galore for people who either are experiencing a mental illness themselves or just someone that knows someone. So it just seems very counterintuitive that in my organization, in a Christian organization, where we care for each other and we extend grace to each other and we want to love each other as Jesus has called us to love each other, that we find a disconnect and the presence still of bias and stereotype. It's just not something you would expect. However, we ask this question in my research: is this issue still contributing to the conflict that we see in our lives, particularly in organizations while we're trying to work together? Due to stigma and mental health prior practice, there's definitely a disconnect between the secular and faith-based schools of thoughts, and they've been that way, and that's just kind of how it's gone along. Well, looking closer, some schools of thought believe it's a spiritual condition. Others understand mental illness as an actual illness or disability. And this study is aiming to identify the gaps in organizational strategy in faith-based organizations, and just find where mental illness falls into those gaps and increase the awareness around it and how we can educate ourselves and others to better address the conflict that arises due to mental health illness. Within my research, one of the most staggering statistics that I had found was the fact that 1 in 5 adults across the nation is experiencing some type of mental illness. This amounts to a lot of people that we all know and interact with in one capacity or another. I also found it fascinating that depression is now a leading cause of disability, when so many people push it aside as something as just a personal characteristic or trait, if someone just has a poor attitude or such like that. To hear these kinds of statistics can really change the lens in which you view the people that you don't necessarily have such an easy time interacting with in work capacities, personal capacities, etc. What is also fascinating is that church leaders and Christian organization, faith-based leaders don't feel equipped to deal with these kinds of individuals. According to some of the research we found, they'll either admit that they're ill-equipped to deal, or they simply believe that it's not necessary to attempt to treat mental illness as a mental illness. I just found these facts absolutely fascinating. As you can see, the type of methodology that I used for my research collection was meta-analysis combined with an additional anonymous survey. I had the opportunity to collect data from licensed professional counselors who actively treat clients and also facilitate courses as members of faculty on a graduate counseling program staff. So, given this opportunity, I just really wanted to dive in and see what they felt about culture, Christian culture in general, about their own organization, and about where they felt that this field could go forward and help create a better climate for our faith-based organizations. So as you can see, there are 5 questions within this survey. All were yes or no answers, and they were all anonymous. So here we have the survey results. I am particularly interested in questions 3 and 4, which would show that all faculty members agreed that they feel administration is ill-equipped to address the needs of mental illness and that they feel there should be further research on the field. Here we have a comparison from Lifeway research, also on mental health illness in the Christian congregation. So in the application portion of this study, it highlights the integration of our faith along with best practices in the mental health professional field. So the biggest takeaway from this study is that yes, faith-based organizations absolutely should incorporate best practices from mental health professionals. We've been given these gifts and we need to use them accordingly.